I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And today we're going to be talking about, do stubborn exes think about you? This is a big question,
yeah.
Margaret. Everybody wonders two major things. Will my ex think about me? And is my ex too stubborn to reach out? And so, even more challenging is wondering, will my stubborn ex think about me, think about our relationship, think about giving us another chance? They're so stubborn.
I've asked to talk to that person 25 times and they won't do it.
Yep. And they're just, they've dug in on their position. Well, we're going to talk about this today. Let's start with the easy answer. Margaret, do stubborn exes think about you?
Yes, they do, because certainly, at least in the beginning of the breakup, people always wonder if they made the right decision. They always think about what it felt like to break up with you. They are at the very beginning stages of missing you. So there's no way, unless they're pretty unhealthy, that they can just put you out of their head.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that, right? But it's important to know that even though you may be with someone or you were with somebody that has been stubborn in the relationship, it doesn't mean that they don't think about you.
Right.
Okay. Now, I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of those people think that their ex is the most stubborn ex, and it'll be their ex that never reaches out. We all feel like that, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would say that.
That they have somebody that just refuses to talk to you. They won't have a conversation with you about it anymore. They just don't want to work it out. And, they're just convinced that because they're acting like that now, it will stay the same forever. But time changes everything in a breakup. I've been saying this for years.
Yes, you do keep reminding people, feelings change.
Absolutely. It is not something solid that once it's there, it's that way forever, okay? So let's talk about stubborn, Margaret. What does stubborn mean?
I think stubborn means you won't do what I want.
Yeah.
Even when I sat down and was perfectly reasonable with you for the 100 reasons I think we should get back together and try this again, nothing moved you and you refused to see me again to talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay? You just refused to even see any other side of the things, and you insist on seeing it only your way. Now that would be the extreme of stubborn. If I think about it, probably the other extreme is what they call suggestible. And therapists have often been told that just by asking people, for example, if they have any kind of a trauma history, that we're already suggesting that they did and putting it in their head. Well, that would be the extreme of being suggestible. And then if I think about it, all of advertising is kind of about being suggestible. If you see a delicious looking whatever on the TV and they're going to tell you exactly where to get it and how to get it, it's easy enough to take that suggestion and say, hey, good idea, I'll go right over to, whatever restaurant and get some of that. Mm-hmm. So, being stubborn is sort of refusing to take in any different point of view or piece of information. And suggestible at its far end would be to say, oh, whatever you think, I'll go along with whatever you think, and if you think this is a good idea, that's fine. And then there's all the places in between.
Sure.
Where you might maintain your position to some extent, but you'll at least listen to other input and understand that other people could see it differently.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so a lot of you guys are feeling like even if you present this great idea. It's not going to change their mind. Nothing's going to change their mind. They're not going to listen to reason. And, you know, a lot of times when you try and use logic and reason to change somebody's mind, it doesn't make them change their mind about wanting to repair the relationship. That's just not what works.
That's exactly right, because it's not about logic.
No.
And I think men especially tend to approach things logically. Well, I gave her every logical reason why we should get back together, and all she could tell me was that she was still upset. You're speaking Greek and I'm speaking Latin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what happens a lot of time is you get in front of your ex, you're trying to use logic, you're trying to convince them, you're trying to say, I'm going to change, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and they're like, no, I don't, and then they get cold, they get mean, they get assertive. If you keep pushing, they'll get police involvement and restraining orders, and it can be very frustrating that you think that their position will never change. But feelings can change, and feelings can change that position, right? Now, the question is, can this stubborn person really think about me, even though they're presenting, I'm not going to get back with you, I'm not going to work it out with you? Can they secretly, behind the scenes, be thinking about you?
Sure they can. And like anybody else, in whatever their way is, they're going to grieve the loss of the relationship too. Now they can try and push the feelings away, they can try and ignore them, but you can't do that forever altogether.
Yeah.
Okay? The other thing it points up is that when you're getting to know someone, it's probably a good idea to assess their stubbornness. Or their reasonableness in making decisions and looking at things.
Yeah. But, you know, because your ex looks like they've completely shut off their feelings from you, they're not going to move from their position, you think that that is like a solidarity in their thinking as well. But when they're alone, by themselves, thinking about you, it's not so entrenched, because they're not having to defend themselves from you. They're wondering, I'm wondering if this is a mistake. I'm wondering if we should really do this. I'm wondering if I really should break up with this person. Yes, even the stubborn exes are wondering if they're making a mistake.
Sure.
Right? Now, the only way you're really going to know if they are thinking about you is, one, if they tell you, which that doesn't happen too often.
Not going to happen.
Sometimes it does. We got a good example in today's email of that, actually. Two, if you see that they're watching your social media, like they're watching your stories, you know for sure they're thinking about you because they looked at it. And three, friends or family tells you, hey, I bumped into your ex, they were asking about you, they were talking about you, they were wondering about you, right? And so those are some signs that they were really thinking about it, and you have that information, you actually have evidence, right? Okay, so even though it looks like they're not thinking about you, they're not going to change their mind, doesn't mean that they can't get to a place where they do reach out. It happens. It happens. And what you want to do is you want to be in the best position to showcase a new, better version of yourself who has a much better understanding of relationships, a lot more emotional self-control, can be a lot more present in relationships, etc., all the things that we teach, because then they're shocked. Because I have found time and time again, exes very rarely do much growth after a breakup.
Right.
They'll do some.
They'll do some.
But if you're looking at 100%, you'll do 90, they'll do 10. Right?
Right.
Okay, I have a good email that someone sent me with a success story that they wanted to share.
Okay.
They said, hello, I just wanted to share with you how a weird ghosting situation turned out well in the end after I decided to follow your advice and gave him the space he needed. And she said, about 3 weeks or so. I'm 27, I work and live in Europe. He's 23 and lives in a different city, about a few hours away. We were in a long-distance relationship for about a year when he got very irritated after an argument we had one day, so he decided to ignore me for the first time. I remained calm, and 3 days after of not talking with each other, I decided to send him a text asking if he's still upset. I also let him know that I'm ready to listen to him and work this out. He answered a few hours later saying he's very busy.
Oh.
Sounds like a stubborn ex to me.
Yes.
After 2 more days of silence, I tried to talk to him again via text, and the only answer I got was, "I'm busy, can't talk now."
I think that's what his message is.
Mm-hmm. I was feeling very down, being convinced already that he doesn't care at all. So I sent one last text telling him that I don't want to bother him anymore with texts or calls, and that I understand that I'm no longer one of his priorities at this point. He didn't respond to that, so I went no contact, thinking that it was over, and he wasn't brave enough to tell me that directly. Mm-hmm. Which is what it seems like is going to happen, right? It's what it feels like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I was very hurt. I wasn't able to eat for 3 or 4 days. I was crying every day. I was a mess. That's when I found your helpful videos on YouTube and watched many of them. They helped me a lot to remain in no contact and to focus on myself instead of being miserable every single day and thinking only about the loss. I went out with friends. I started to paint more often than before. I signed up for a mindfulness class, and I also decided it was the right time to start looking for a new job because I really hated the old one.
Good for her.
I know, look at all this work, right? I admit checking his social media several times, and I remember being surprised of how active he was. This is interesting. Watch, pay attention here. He isn't usually very active on social media. Saw a lot of posts with his friends in which he appeared really happy. At this point, I decided that it's not going to help me at all to keep checking his social media, so I forced myself to remain focused on my goals.
Good.
Soon, I started to feel better. I realized, even though I was still hurt at that point, I was going to be fine in the end. Even though I was feeling better and more detached, I kept watching your videos. Last night, while eating, I was watching one of them when I got a first text from him saying, "Hey, how are you?"
Well.
I followed your advice and politely replied, but at the same time, I had to remember myself not to act very excited.
Right.
After "How are you?" he asked if he can call me. I texted okay, and then we talked on the phone. He wanted to know how I was feeling, and I remained calm and said that I'm good and that I was focusing on improving my painting skills. That's when he told me, "I'm really sorry for how I behaved a few weeks ago.
Well.
I know it was wrong. I know that I have hurt you, and I wish I hadn't. I was stubborn and too proud to admit that after a week or so, I was no longer upset and wanted to reach out." Should I say that again for these people?
Yes, for me too.
Yeah. I was stubborn and too proud to admit that after a week or so, I was no longer upset and wanted to reach out.
Good.
I was afraid to reach out to you because I thought you were very hurt and no longer wanted to see me ever again.
Wow.
This guy is giving us some great information, isn't he?
Yes.
All of the things that we teach you guys, you see, they're all playing out in this, right? My friend told me I should reach out to you as well because this is ridiculous, but only today I was able to do it. I love you and I want to be with you if you still want me. I also thank you for not staying upset with me all this time. And she said, I had told him I was no longer upset, only disappointed. Mm-hmm. And I will try to be a better person in the future because you deserve much better.
Wow. Cool.
This is a stubborn ex talking.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for this? Sit down, everybody. If you're standing up, they need to hear this, Margaret. I thought about you every single day.
Wow.
I tried to go out with my friends as long as I could, but in the evenings, before going to sleep, it was impossible for me not to think of you.
Wow.
This is what we teach. I'm going to say that again, Margaret. They need to hear this. I tried to go out with my friends as long as I could, but in the evenings, before going to sleep, it was impossible for me not to think of you. What a great email so far, isn't it?
What a great email.
I have to say, I wasn't expecting this at all. After hearing you talking about the indirect direct approach, I told him, I appreciate that you apologized. I understand why you were hesitant. I was very hurt indeed, but I forgive you and I'm willing to give it another try if you want this relationship and you're willing to work with me from now on. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to work.
Good.
And we're just going to waste our time and hurt each other over and over again, and I don't want that. In the end, we decided to meet next week in person after I come back from my holidays to discuss what caused the situation and to see what we can do from here. Thank you so much for teaching us how to adult better.
And that's exactly what happened here.
This was a fantastic email.
Yes.
Because so much of what we teach was in this email situation.
Can we bronze it?
Yeah, I really think we should. She was ghosted, and what do we teach you guys? Don't chase. We say give them time. So what did he do? He came back in time, right? She saw that he was stubborn. He admitted that he was stubborn.
So she gave him space.
She tried to act like an adult 3 times.
Yep.
He didn't respond well. But then she backed off, followed the YouTube channel, followed all our strategies, and focused on herself. She talked about that, right? All the things that she was doing to change herself, right? But then he even admitted, I was stubborn. You guys are afraid of stubborn.
That's very impressive.
And too proud to admit that after a week or so, I was no longer upset and wanted to reach out. And what do we say? Your ex is scared to reach out. That's why they do an indirect direct approach most of the time. But he said, I thought you were very hurt and no longer wanted to see me ever again.
Ever again.
Right? Okay? You don't think that your ex feels like that, but they do.
They do. They do. But you're hurt and angry at the time, and it's hard to even entertain the thought.
But here we have a stubborn ex saying from himself, I thought about you every single day. I tried to go out with friends as long as I could, but in the evenings before going to sleep, it was impossible for me not to think about you.
Right.
So, do stubborn exes think about you? There you have it.
There you have it.
We don't often get somebody who gives that much information and is willing to open up.
It was great to hear the process. Yes. And he did as well as she did, actually, when it came down to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He adulted much better also.
Absolutely.
But she started it, and he responded in kind.
But it was great for everybody to see in this email that what it was like for them to go through
this
in their experience. He did the ghosting, he did the ignoring, and what would she have known, or what would she have seen? He probably doesn't care about me, he's not thinking about me.
He's already met somebody else.
Yep. Meanwhile, he shared the experience of thinking about her every single day, and it was impossible for me not to think about you. I love this email. I really do.
It's wonderful.
Because there were so many great points that came up from the dumper's perspective. He wasn't the dumper. They didn't break up. But it looked like he had dumped her.
Like
he ghosted her.
Yeah, he ghosted
for
her.
almost a month.
That's passive-aggressive dumping.
Yeah. So it's just great for you guys to see what the stubborn person, is going through on their end.
Stubborn people sometimes grow up.
Yeah.
And they weren't exactly ancient. Weren't they both in their 20s?
Yes, I believe so.
Well, good for them.
Great email, and thank you for sharing that
Yes.
email, because it was really good for everybody to see what happens
You
in these
shared
kind
your process
of situations.
on both sides.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I hope you guys love this one, and of course, when you want to get our help personally, just go to my website, askcraig.net, sign up for the coaching option that works best for you. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Margaret is available for Skype coaching.
Yes, please feel free to sign up with me.
Just click on Margaret on the top of the website to do that. Subscribe to the channel, and we are podcasting now on iTunes, Spotify, and all the other podcast platforms. That's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
I'm Coach Margaret.
And we will talk with you soon.